Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I know there's a lot going on, but things seem to be simmering down. And I just wanted to share a revelation I learned this afternoon while we're on the topic on this channel. So maybe people could perceive and catch up. So recently, what we've uncovered lately in the studies being covered on this channel is the revelation of Rebecca being a foundational image of the bride of Christ to later be the tower of Mary of Magdala. And though these are my own words, I think this is probably the first time this revelation has really been gathered into an English sentence in an educational, coherent way that I've gathered throughout all the texts that we have in these days to gather this revelation. So what you see on your screen is actually really cool. And the end game, of course, the revelation of Mary of Magdalene is the redemption of our souls, going on to the kingdom of God, the end of material existence. So what I realized, or what I was shown today, is that the Rechabites that we read of in Jeremiah chapter 35, the Rechabites are, that name is stems from our matriarch Rebecca. So we can read of the Rechabites in Jeremiah chapter 35, and it's a kind of standout chapter in the book of Jeremiah. In the apocryphal works, there is a text called the History of the Rechabites, and that is very crucial if you want to study the Rechabites to get more revelation. So why do we learn of the Rechabites in the book of Jeremiah in chapter 35? It seems like to come out of nowhere when we're reading the book of Jeremiah. Well, when we understand that the Rechabites are an offshoot of our matriarch Rebecca, and now that we have the revelation of Rebecca, we know Jeremiah is a prophet of Samaria, those who mix good with the bad. And there are those who purposely mix good with the bad, but there are also those like the daughters of Zion who have been corrupted, born into the good with the bad. Like we read of in Malachi chapter 2, they're of the covenant of God, but they're born into the house of Esau, right? So that tears the house of Esau apart at the end of the day. But so we read that in Malachi chapter 2, but that's why we read of the Rechabites in the book of Jeremiah, because Jeremiah was a prophet of Samaria. Now, when we read of the Rechabites, the revelation I'm trying to get to without like going on and on and on, the Rechabites have a special covenant to be set apart from the world. But when we look up all the names and we start doing the research into what's in the text, like in Jeremiah 35 verse 1, right away we could discern that this is a sect of our faith that is, when we're already redeemed, it's really for our children's children and for our far future. And when we read the history of the Rechabites, we get more details that are confirmed in Jeremiah 35. It's access to other realms. It's marriage laws that go past the Quran, as that the Quran, like the polygamy in the Quran, is just leading us up to a higher calling, which the Rechabites are called to, a higher calling. And that says that they don't even live with their wives. They mate and they go on their own and all that kind of stuff. But we need to develop, of course, that spiritual maturity and that piety to even maintain such things. So that's why it's reserved for, our children's children. That's what we could read of in the text. And what's interesting, on the closing verse in Jeremiah 35, it says, so no man will come on to the Lord forever. So that is the end of material existence when we all become celestial. That is the redemption of our souls. That is the end revelation of Mary and Magdalene. I mean, it doesn't end, but as far as material existence goes. Okay, so what I want to show you, something else that's pretty cool, is that we see the Rechabites in Jeremiah chapter 35. Why chapter 35? Now, I've learned recently that nothing is a mistake in our Bibles. Even things that we think are a mistake are divinely purposed. Like, John chapter 1 really seems like it should be divided into 2 chapters, but there's a reason why it's like that. And there's other examples in the Bible that seem like, well, this could be better, but there's a divine reason for these things. And so I was thinking, well, why are the Rechabites in Jeremiah chapter 35? What can we learn about the number 35? So when you're familiar in numerology, we know to decipher the number 35, we just take 30 and then the name 5. So 30 is the number of a covenant in our Bibles. And when we read about the Rechabites, that makes perfect sense. And 5, commonly known as a number of grace, but in the Sefer Melchizedek from the brass plates of Joseph Smith, we have even more insight on the number 5. And this, of course, makes perfect sense from what we've been talking about on what you see on your screen. So yes, we just get amazing revelation, even deeper, into Rebecca, even into Mary of Magdalene and the daughter of Zion, which is to bring in the church. So it's just very beautiful how God works, how God cares for the lost. Jesus came for the sinners and came for the lost. Yeah, I just wanted to share that. Really amazing. If anybody could keep up or is interested in doing a study, I'll leave some more information in the description box below. Thank you for tuning in. Allah bless you.